All right, guys, welcome back to part two of the Black Mirror countdown. So we get into number 10, which is an episode I had out of my top 10. It's one of these things where you kind of like adjusting as you're going along. That episode is White Bear. I wanted to put it lower on my list because I don't like the ending's kind of rough. But the more I think about it, it's actually a very satisfying ending, a very cool ending, and the story is well written and well directed. And it's about this woman who wakes up. She doesn't know where she's at. She's in a house. There's pills everywhere. She doesn't know anything about what's going on. She goes outside and she notices people are filming her, but she doesn't know why. There's people all over the place as the story goes along. And she's being chased as well by these people, and she doesn't know who they are. They have like weapons and so on and so forth. And she meets this group of rebels, and they tell her about how the people are zombified creatures or characters, and that's why they're filming her. Kind of like the road and stuff like that. And she eventually gets to herself to a point where she's being told about this thing called White Bear. She ends up in a power plant of sorts, presses a button, and she realizes as she's put in a chair that she has gone through this scenario thousands of times, and it's because she's been convicted of a pretty heinous crime of killing a child who had a little white bear. And that's the whole point of the episode is you do the crime, you're gonna do the time. And her husband or boyfriend or whatever also participated. I think he was killed by a lethal injection, but she took the thing where she was going to be doing this thing, and all the people around her that were filming are part of a live studio audience, so they get to react. It's kind of like a golf course when you're watching golf and people are all around. It's that type of scenario. But it's an interesting episode. It's a really dark episode, but it has a lot of cool moments to it, and that's why I really like it. So, but we'll go ahead and go to number 9, which is number 9 is the first of 2 anthology episodes, and an anthology is like 3 different episodes put into one. It's a really cool way to do things. The Simpsons have done it before, which I really enjoy. And so this episode is called White Christmas, and White Christmas is an episode that it has John Hamm in it, and he is talking to some guy in a cabin. And as the story moves along, you see these interstitial stories, and you see these actual episode stories. And each episode is kind of giving you hints and clues of how the episode will end. The first episode deals with John Hamm trying to help somebody find a woman. The guy ends up killing the woman. The second episode is about a woman who implants kind of her consciousness, a clone of her consciousness into an egg, which is kind of like a Google Assist. Then the third episode is about a guy who basically gets divorced from his wife. She blocks him, which blocking is basically the ability for the person not to be able to interact with you, not to see you. They kind of see a red static image. And he sees a girl, and he basically takes the girl, and we find out not only is the girl not his, but his wife was cheating on him and had a kid and so on and so forth. But the girl ends up dying, and it's really dark and really sad. And at the very end, we find out the guy in the cabin was part of that third story. He killed the girl. He had to admit to it. And what's happening is John Hamm is talking to the guy in the egg, which we see in the second story, and that's how he confesses. And we also find out that not only is John Hamm been convicted of the first episode, but he has been put on block from the entire world, which means that, like if I told you before with the red static, nobody can see him. He can't see anyone, so therefore he's alone for the rest of his life. And it's a really crazy episode. I love it. A lot of people don't. I think it's fascinating. I think it's inventive. And I think the fact that all 3 episodes kind of lead into the final conclusion is really, really inventive and crazy in storytelling perfection. And it's an amazing episode. And it was also a Christmas episode because UK is known for doing like a series where they'll do a few episodes, and then at some point, if they want to do like something in between, they'll do like a holiday episode, kind of like what Doctor Who does. And I just think it was great. So, but with that, move on to number 8, which is number 8 is another anthology episode. It's the second anthology episode. It came at the very end of season 4. We thought it was a series finale, but we weren't sure because possibility of a season 5 was going to come eventually. And of course, that is Black Museum. And Black Museum stars Letitia Wright as Nish, who you might remember playing Shuri in the Black Panther movie, another MCU character. And it's basically the same style, the same kind of conclusion story where all 3 episodes kind of lead into the conclusion. But we get the first story, which talks about this guy gets a chip put into him. He's a doctor, and it makes him feel pain. And he gets like off on that pain, and he starts doing like really disturbing and crazy stuff. I'm not like the hugest fan of that episode, but it's very. If you like gore factor, you'll really enjoy that episode. The second episode is a mother and her husband, boyfriend, or whatever you want to call him. The mother gets hit by a bus. She is in a coma, basically she's brain dead, basically. Her consciousness gets put into her boyfriend. Her boyfriend it gives her the ability to see her daughter, and therefore she can interact. But because of the whole her being in his consciousness, they're always bickering back and forth, and he has the ability to turn her off. And so he does that, and when he turns her back on, it's been several months, and he has met another woman, and of course the mother doesn't agree with that, and so they come up with a conclusion to basically put her into a teddy bear, and therefore she can be for the daughter, but she can only do like two commands, like mommy needs a or Teddy needs a hug, and Teddy I love you, or whatever, however it pronounces. And it becomes like a sad state of affairs for the mother, because that's all she can do. And of course the daughter's eventually not going to have the teddy bear anymore, and she gets stuck in this black museum, and it's really sad. And of course the third episode, which is kind of the main crux of the whole story, is about this inmate who is basically given a second chance. He's been put to death, and he's basically put into this exhibit. And what it does is it basically they put his consciousness into the exhibit, and it gives the people to basically shock him, electrocute him, and gives the person a little egg which has his consciousness in it, and he's forever, being electrocuted, and it's kind of crazy. And as the museum or as the exhibit kind of falters, he starts giving it to people like that have like fetishes and stuff like that, and therefore it causes the inmate to basically be vegetabilized, turned into like a vegetable. We also come to find out that Letitia Wright is there for a reason, and it's not to visit a black museum. And let me preface this by saying Black Museum is basically a fan thank you, or a fan kind of Easter egg type episode, because there's stuff from all the episodes prior in this episode. You see like the nosedive stuff, and you see the little sucker from USS Callister. It's a really cool nod to all the episodes prior. And basically Nish, or Letitia Wright's character, is there for revenge. Her father is actually the inmate, and because of what happened, because the mom ended up killing herself, she's there to get revenge on the curator by poisoning his water and basically burning down the museum. And she does exactly what he did to her father, which is put him into his consciousness into that machine. She pulls the machine until he's basically dead, and his consciousness is in the egg, forever being electrocuted. And it's clever, it's unique, it's fascinating to watch, and the fact that she gets her revenge and it's really cool payoff is really awesome, and that's why I love it so much. So number 7 is a episode that has a weird title. It's called Hanging the DJ, and Hanging the DJ is an episode that I don't know where they got the title from, but it's basically about this couple who meet, and everybody in the world, when it comes to dating, they have this little machine or little pocket phone or whatever you want to call it, that basically tells the people how long they can be with each other, whether it be 5 minutes, 1 year, lifetime, whatever. So this couple meets, they get like 3 hours, and then they go off on their own to deal with other people. They get paired back together again, but instead of checking the machine or the phone or whatever to find out how long they have, they basically start a relationship. They're like, we're not going to look at it. They make a pact and so on and so forth. Well, several years later, however many years it was, the guy gets antsy. He really wants to know, and he checks it, and it says like however many years it was, and it gets bumped down because he checked it. So now they have like 18 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. And she finds out because he tells her, and she basically breaks up with him and leaves. And they both go on their relationships. One of the characters has like several different relationships. One guy gets paired for like several years. And yeah, so once that's over with, they find each other again, and they decide they're going to escape. Well, when they escape they do it by climbing, because they're walled in, so they climb over the wall. And the amazing ending to this episode is you see like millions of other versions of them, and you come to find out that this is a simulation that in the real life people use to find out how compatible they are with each other. And so they've run millions and millions of this situation or simulation, and you find out the couple you've seen throughout the whole entire episode are like 99% compatible, so they have started a relationship. So it's a really cool ending that has a nice, sweet moment of an ending as well. So, which Black Mirror is not always known for. But, anyways, we'll go ahead and head to number 6, which is. So, we get an episode with Daniel Kaluuya. You might remember from Get Out. He was also an MCU character in Black Panther. Amazing actor. I love him. He's in an episode called 15 Million Merits, and this is an early season 1 episode. I love this episode. I think it's fantastic. It's about a guy who, or it's actually about a bunch of people who bicycle to keep the electricity running, and they earn money, credits, merits, or whatever you want to call it. Daniel Kaluuya's father or brother dies. He inherits 15 million merits, and he meets this girl who has an amazing singing voice. And so he puts her onto this TV show, which is kind of like an X Factor. And she sings, but she is not given like the respect and due. They think she's kind of terrible. So they offer her a role into a pornography TV series, which you see running throughout, which is called Wraith Babes or something like that. And he is determined to get back on that show because you need to pay 15 million merits and to get revenge on the people that are running that show. And it's a really cool, interesting thing because he brings a shard of glass once he gets 15 million merits. He ends up getting his own TV show, and that's the really cool rub of the whole thing. Is it deals with the fact of how we do crazy things to become famous. You know, look at some of the YouTubers you see, or some of the Twitter follower or Twitter people or the Instagram people. Look at what they're doing to get their millions and billions of views or followers. They're doing some crazy stuff. They're very, like he was doing in this episode with a shard of glass. You know, you do crazy stuff like that, you're going to become famous at some point because people like that kind of stuff. And I just also like the economy, like how if you want to skip the commercial, you have to use your merits. If you want to buy food, you have to use your merits, and it's all based on status as well. So it's a really cool episode. I like it. So, but we'll move on to number 5, which is. So we're finally getting into what I consider the cream of the crop of Black Mirror. Yes, there's only 19, including a movie, episodes. But number 5, of course, is Playtest. Playtest is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who has done stuff like 10 Cloverfield Lane. He did a Portal short, which got him into Black Mirror and 15 Cloverfield Lane. Of course, he's doing Uncharted. And this is a fantastic episode. It deals with video games on a crazy AR subversive level. We have this guy played by Wyatt Russell, who's stuck in a city where he has no money because it got stolen or whatever happened to it. And he is offered the ability to basically get back to America by being involved in this playtest. And it's to a famous Japanese developer. And what it is this new AR game where he goes into this house and things start interacting with him and say, it's that kind of thing where how we're going into the future with VR and AR. And it's a well done story. Things start to go insane, it just really goes insane for Wyatt Russell's character. If you've ever played Eternal Darkness, you know exactly where I'm going with this. But he starts to like freak out, and then he ends up back in the playtest with the people, the inventor of this game, and he gets a call from his mom, and he goes back to America. Well, after everything's said and done, when he gets home, nothing seems right about it when he gets home. And we find out that he's never left the room in the beginning of the episode. He's actually short-circuited his chip that they put in him, and he's died. And he did the one thing they told him not to do, which is use his cell phone or electronics and stuff like that. And when his mother texts him, it causes everything to short circuit, and he dies. And it's within a 10 millimeter second or 10th of a second time frame. So everything we had watched for the past hour was within a 10th of a second, and that's insane and crazy and just inventive as all hell. And it's a really cool video game story. It's a really cool Black Mirror episode, and it's a very, very cool, just trying to warn you about the effects of what video games could be and can do. So with that, we'll move on to number 4, which is. So number 4 is an episode that a lot of people would put as their number 1. I put it a little bit lower. I think there's 3 other episodes that are much better, but that is Be Right Back. This is more of an episode that has strong acting in it more than the story, which is still fantastic. Don't get me wrong, because I wouldn't have put it at number 4 if it wasn't. But Haley Atwell and Domhnall Gleeson are the main 2 people in this. And they're a couple. Domhnall Gleeson goes away to get bread or milk, and he is hit and killed, therefore leaving Haley Atwell's character alone. She's pregnant. She's getting ready to have a kid, and she does the thing that you shouldn't do, is try and remember your loved one by doing something stupid like getting a robot. And at first it's fine, you know, the consciousness that's put into the robot, it works well, it does well, but then it starts getting too out of hand for her, and she starts realizing that maybe this wasn't a good choice, and she therefore sticks the robot into the attic, but she lets her daughter go eventually see the robot. And this all hinges on Haley Atwell's acting, and this is why I like Haley Atwell so well. Is she's such a fantastic emoter. Just her acting ability is top notch. Even when she does like Agent Carter or the the Star or the Marvel movies, she's just a fantastic actress, and it all hinges on her shoulders, and she nails it. And it's just that's why it's such an amazing episode. I'm not as high, like I said, I'm not high on the story, but I think because of her acting, it elevates it to a whole nother level of an episode. So that's why it's at number 4. But number three is the entire history of you. This is another one people could have put number 1 on a list. I put it where it is. I mean, these top 3 could be anywhere. This has Toby Kebbell, who you know from him doing a lot of work like with Andy Serkis, and so he's done a lot of like motion capture with like Planet of the Apes and so on and so forth. This episode has a really insane premise with these people have chips implanted in them where it basically records everything they do. During a dinner party, Toby Kebbell's character with his wife, he starts to get this inkling that she is cheating on him, and therefore he just kind of sees it with how they interact with each other, and he keeps he keeps moving it back and forth in his head about the whole incident, and she won't say it, but he kind of knows. Well, they have a kid, and he starts to question whether the kid is his, and so he basically confronts her, forces her to show him the sex scene because she admits that she cheated on him, but he wants to go a step further to find out if it's actually his kid. And it's just a crazy episode that has a great performance in it and great acting in it. And the ending when he rips out the little recording device is insane. And it's a fantastic episode about how we record everything in our daily lives, how it can come back and bite us in the ass, and how we should sometimes not record, but maybe go one-on-one, just be ourselves and not worry about our phones all the time. And I'm guilty of this, everyone's guilty of it, but it's fantastic and well acted. So but number 2 is, this is a great episode. It's called USS Callister. And I could have put this at number 1, but I like the other episode better. USS Callister is a fantastic episode. It is perfectly written. It has a very uncomfortable, disturbing character. And it has some amazing acting in it. Christine Milan, who plays the main actress, she basically starts at this job where it's a computer job. Computer company is creating this game called Starfleet, and the main guy who has created Starfleet is played by Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons is very introverted. He doesn't really talk to anybody, but he kind of starts getting starts to kind of develop feelings for her character, and he finds a way to get her DNA, which he injects into his own version of Starfleet, which is going to be eventually updated his own version of Starfleet. And basically, he has taken people from around the office and has injected them into this game. And Jesse Plemons' character is basically the leader of the starship crew, but he's a very evil person, a very angry person, a very nasty person. They all remember their past, they all remember where they were, and they're held captive by Jesse Plemons in this world. And if they go out of line, they could do terrible things to them. And the way this episode plays out, the way it is, how interesting and how unique it is, makes it for a really fascinating episode, because when they start to plan out how they're going to get revenge on Jesse Plemons' character, they do it in such a unique way, because the company that has created Starfleet, that is working on Starfleet, is developing an update. So what they're going to do, the crew of the USS Callister, is they're going to trick Jesse Plemons away from the ship. So they do that. They take over the ship and they fly it towards the update. As the update's coming towards them, they're flying towards it to go into the update. And what ends up happening is Jesse Plemons, who's in the ship that they've left behind, he's flying towards them. He's trying to take them down. Well, they get into the update. He gets stuck into the original version of the game, and he's never able to escape. He's in darkness. He's just floating in nowhere. And the really cool moment is in the outside world, he is stuck in that moment. He is, because he has the VR goggle or helmet on him, he's not able to escape. And therefore, he is basically brain dead, basically stuck in his reality that he's created. And the people that were in the game have gone on to the new version of it, and it's become a better world. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic episode if you haven't seen it. Sorry I gave away a little bit too much of it, but you should definitely watch it if you haven't. So, but let's go ahead and I'm going to do an honorable mention, and that honorable mention is, so since this is still an episode, it's not really an episode, it's more of a movie. It's an interactive movie. I wanted to talk about this before number one because I think this is an amazing looking, amazing feeling, not a great story movie that they did last December, I think it was, and it was once again directed by David Slade, written by Charlie Brooker, and it's called Bandersnatch, and it's more of an interactive movie than it is an actual movie. It's about a character who has created this video game. He gets the popularity. He's found out by Will Poulter, who has some interesting stuff going on in this movie. And the way it plays out is you decide what this character is going to do. And it has some really cool moments, it has some not cool moments, but it's an interesting way of visually storytelling something by giving the fans the ability to kind of decide what the character is going to do. And I really hope they kind of increase or kind of improve upon this scenario, because it can make for some really good storytelling that is actually quite an old storytelling medium back in the day from the 80s and 90s or whatever. But it's a really cool segment that I couldn't put in the top 19 or top 20 or whatever, because I felt that it was its own thing, and therefore I put it as an honorable mention. But so number one is, so this is an episode. It stars Mackenzie Davis, it stars Gugu Mbatha, and it's called Sanjana Pierrot. This is what I consider one of the greatest episodes in TV history. This episode is insanely fantastic. It's beautiful. It's heartwarming. It has a lot of melancholy in it. It's just an episode that has all the emotions wrapped into a great ball of feels. And it has a great ending. You know, Mackenzie Davis is this character, and she is in this place called Sanjana Pierrot, which you think she's there for vacation. She meets a character, of course, played by Gugu Mbatha, who is this very outlandish, outgoing character. She loves dancing, she loves partying, and they develop a relationship where it brings Mackenzie Davis's character out of her shell. Well, Gugu Mbatha, after a certain amount of time, disappears, and we can't figure out why. Well, what's going on is when they find each other in the 90s, you find out this is actually another virtual reality program or a device for older people who are either dying or about ready to die. And it allows their consciousness to go into this computer warehouse to live a different life, to live the life they've always wanted. You know, it does cost a lot of money, so you have to have some kind of wealth. And it's just such a beautiful story, because even though it's two women that love each other, it's just the passion, just the idea of what is going on. The fact that at first they don't know if they can be with each other, but then at the very end they do get with each other, and they, get married, and they just have this beautiful symbiotic relationship. And even on the stuff on the outside, when you find out Mackenzie Davis's character is in a coma, Gugu Mbatha's character is she's basically dying, and that's the reason why everything plays out like it does, where they kind of reject each other. But when they are able to get back with each other, it's just it's so heartwarming. It's just such a well-written episode, and it makes you cry because it's so good, and the ending just is not dark, it's not bleak. It does deal with computers, but it does it with a very sincere, very heartwarming tale of just two people that find each other and are their soulmates. So it's a wonderful episode, and I loved it. And it gives me goosebumps talking about it because I love it so much. But anyways, that'll do it for my countdown for Black Mirror. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what the next 3 episodes are going to be like. I may revisit this countdown just to kind of decide where I'm going to put each episode, depending on how good they are. But yeah, what if you want? I know I said this in part 2, but tell me what your 5 favorite episodes are of Black Mirror if you watched it. If you haven't watched it, please watch it, especially the top 5 I recommended, because I think you'll really enjoy it. And it'll give you a good sense of what Black Mirror is. So, but anyways, like I said in the first video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button at the top, and comment below on any of these videos. You know, comment below on, like I said, on this video, tell me what you think. And otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.